Yo YouTube, what is good? Call it Reese back with another fucking video. So today we got police sketches, and I'm gonna record it in the dark. As we see, I'm in the dark. Yes, I was gonna turn the LED lights, but I changed my mind on that. So other than that, let's get this shit. Yeah, so by the way, let's get this video to 40 likes. Turn on the bell, like and subscribe, and pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah, let's get into the video.
It's 2013. The unidentified human remains of a man were discovered on State Road 70 in DeSoto County, Florida. Not too much is known about the man, except for a couple of distinguishing characteristics and features that were seen when his remains were first discovered. The victim was wearing what seemed to be a work uniform, which consisted
already from the start. It's already on some crazy shit. His name is Gary. Oh man.
Of a long sleeve blue shirt with white vertical stripes, gray colored pants, a brown belt with a Virgin Mary belt buckle, brown Rhino brand boots, and a black tank top worn as an undershirt. On his uniform shirt, there was a name tag with the name Gary, and the name of the company, Store Mechanical Corporation. It was shortly determined after that the man had a medical condition known as Klippel-Feil syndrome, which is a rare disorder that affects the development of the bones in your spine. Some of the symptoms include abnormal fusion of 2 or more bones in your neck, a short neck and low hairline, a crooked neck, and a decreased range of motion in the head and neck area. In this case, the man had very little to no neck, and it gave off this uncanny-like feeling when the facial reconstruction was brought to the public eye. Based on the scene, the victim appears to have transported to the location after his death, and it was estimated
Already, this is the most creepiest one. This is the most creepiest one right here. That's the way he looks and everything right there. It's very creepy, very creepy.
That he had been at the location for 2 months before discovery. It's been just over 10 years, and this is sadly still a cold case. Given the names Septic Tank Sam and Sam Doe, Sam was an unidentified murder victim who was found in a septic tank on April 13, 1977 in Lynbrook, Alberta, Canada by farmer Charlie McLeod and his wife, who had just returned to their abandoned farm in search of a septic tank pump. The couple found the body and quickly alerted the RCMP. At the time of his discovery, Sam was wearing a blue Levi's shirt with snap buttons, a grey overshirt, blue jeans, and a bootleg pair of Wallaby-style shoes. Since he was indulged in the tank, it took the officers an hour to empty the nearly 2-meter deep septic tank with empty ice cream pails. Upon investigation, the body was rolled up in a yellow bedsheet and tied with a nylon rope. It was dumped headfirst into the tank and had been partially filled with water, and not only that, but the remains were covered in quicklime as an attempt to speed up the process of decomposition. When taken to a medical examiner, they had a tough time determining whether or not the victim was a man or woman.
Damn, his story. I heard about this one before. His story is very fucked up. Very fucked up. Let's keep on going though.
Because the victim had been brutally mutilated to the point of being unrecognizable. On top of this, 2 gunshot wounds were located on the head and chest. After an autopsy was finally done, the victim was determined to be a man, and more of his torturous suffering was shown, as he also suffered from severe burn marks from a butane torch, cigarettes, and had been sexually mutilated with a sharp object. The object was never fixated on due to the condition of the remains, but the examiner suspected that it could have possibly been from the use of farm shears. This facial reconstruction was created 2 years after the discovery of his bodily remains, and it was during this time that a full investigation was brought up for this unknown man. Looking back at the inside of the septic tank, there was a chance that the man was murdered elsewhere, and that he was in fact not living in Alberta at the time, making the septic tank a dump site. His murderer was also brought into question, as it was believed that the perpetrator was a Tofield local, or at least someone who was familiar with the area, due to knowing the location of the septic tank being on a rural property. This led other local farmers to check
It's crazy, yo. That is really crazy.
out their land for any potential clues, but this unfortunately led to nothing. In a desperate attempt to find some identification,
Out of all the stories I know this one. I know this one because I've seen it in TikTok, other videos. I think maybe blame it on Jorge who did it, or blame it on George. I heard about this story though, so I know this story, but I don't think I probably know some of the other rest they probably gonna show. So I'm not sure,
One of the officers on duty, Sergeant Ed Lammert, sent off x-rays of the man's teeth to 800 different dentists in Alberta, as well as publishing them in dental magazines. But unfortunately, yet again, this led to nothing. Man's body was then buried in an unmarked grave in an Edmonton cemetery and kept there for just a short period of time until it was exhumed. His remains were then taken to the Federal Aviation Administration in Oklahoma, in which a federal anthropologist, Clyde Snow, and a medical illustrator, Betty Gatliff, created a 3D facial composite in hopes that a facial reconstruction could help finally identify the unknown man. This is what they believed the man looked like, and in the process of the recreation, some important details were revealed. Clyde Snow believes Sam was of indigenous origin and around the age of 35 years old, which totally went against the RCMP's original belief of him being Caucasian and between the age of 25 to 32. On top of this, they were both able to identify that he was right-handed after some measurements. It was at this point in the case for the first time that a potential lead was finally initiated. A report was made in June 1975 of a missing Alberta man named Edward Arkin. He was described as a 27-year-old indigenous man who stood at 5'8" and weighed 139 pounds. He had brown eyes, short black hair, and at the time of his disappearance, he was wearing a blue denim jacket and pants with a red shirt. Despite this being a plausible lead, Edward Arkin was determined not to be the man in the septic tank after it was revealed that he was missing 6 teeth, while Sam's teeth were all intact. After this debunked lead, the case became cold, which disappointed many since at this point, over 1 million Canadian dollars had been spent on the investigation. His body was then taken out of the grave in August 2000, but this time another forensic artist named Cyril Chan decided to take the role of identifying him. Cyril Chan decided to create a clay reconstruction of the man's face. It took him 3 weeks to finish the recreation, and he was fairly confident that his version of the reconstruction was better than the original one done by Clyde Snow and Betty Gatliff, and it was at this point that he believed Sam was going to be found through his recreation.
This one's crazy. It's like whole lot of bunch of shit. It's like added in. It's a lot.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like...
Hey Google, turn on Rocky's Food.
The ultimate.
21 years later, on June 29, 2021, it was reported that the remains had been identified through genetic genealogy. DNA samples taken from his body were submitted by a private lab in the Woodlands, Texas, known as Osram Incorporated, and the man was officially identified in January 2021. Septic Tank Sam was actually named Gordon Edwin Sanderson. Gordon was a 26-year-old indigenous man born on October 22, 1950 in Manitoba. His early life wasn't the greatest, as when he was only 9 years old, he became a victim of the 60 scoop, in which those who are unaware refers to a time period that occurred as early as 1951, when a series of policies that were enacted by Canadian provincial and territorial child welfare authorities that allowed indigenous children to be taken away from their families
I didn't know about this one.
and placed in foster home, in which other non-indigenous families adopted them. Because of this traumatic experience, Gordon struggled with numerous addictions and caught himself in a ton of legal trouble. Eventually, Gordon was able to return to his normal life in his mid-20s in the 1970s. He lived in Edmonton, Alberta, and planned on visiting his brother who lived not too far away in Calgary. It was later revealed that this was the last thing he told his family before his disappearance and death. As of today, no official perpetrator has been caught. It's commonly believed that he was just killed by his former associates when he was involved in criminal acts back in his early years. Due to the time gap, investigators have suspected that his killer or killers might not even still be alive. On November 26, 1989, the body of a woman was found in brutal conditions in a ditch in Harris County, Texas. When discovered, her body was found face down and smashed in the ground. When the officers arrived on the scene, it was assumed that she was killed elsewhere, or either at that very place, and was then dumped and left in that area to die. The woman's face was so damaged and unidentifiable at this point that not even a facial reconstruction was possible.
That's fucking crazy, yo. Like, imagine that shit. Just can't even come up with a damn face just because the face is so messed up.
So instead, a sketch was created of the victim that consisted of her hand covering her face. The only things that were recognizable here were some of her characteristics, such as her teeth, skin color,
So I got it wrong. Oh, my fault. That was on me.
and her brown hair. some notable features included her jewelry, her blue blouse with a white lace, and red painted nails. An investigation was launched, but with little information to go off of, and essentially only estimates and speculation of who she was. This meant that she remained unidentified until July 2005. The woman's name is Cheryl Bowman, and was supposedly a drifter who had cut ties with her family. Strange enough, another woman was also found murdered that same day in Harris County, but there's been no connection between the two victims and the killer involved. Sadly, this is where the case ends. No other information has been brought forward, making this a cold case. On April 3, 2018, the Warwickshire Police posted a statement on their Twitter account stating, "We issued an e-fit of a suspect in a distraction burglary in Stratford in February. If you have any information, please contact us." Following the statement, an image of the burglar was provided. The image received negative attention as people were mocking it and basically not taking it as seriously. Due to its widespread attention, the Warwickshire Police released another announcement clarifying that it was indeed a real image. We can confirm that this is real and that we anticipated the attention. But jokes aside, it was created from a description provided, and it's serious as a
Shit look mad ugly, yo. What the hell?
woman was a victim of a horrible crime. Hopefully the attention will mean we identify the offender and bring him to justice quicker. So what happened is that earlier that year in February, two men were walking from house to house in Stratford, England, attempting to home invade by claiming that they were officials from a company named Orbit, which are a not-for-profit housing provider. A majority of the time, no one really fell for their act, but there was one victim who truly believed they were legitimate. Both managed to enter inside the woman's flat, and while inside, one of them kept her distracted while the other one would steal valuables and cash around her flat. Shortly after, she realized what was happening and demanded them to leave, but unfortunately, they managed to steal some cash. As with other cases mentioned in this video, these criminals were never caught for their actions. This case involves Heather and Stephen Stroop, and Stephen's mother, Joanna Hayes. In May 2000,
I don't know if this one's the same case as that one, but that one is like all over the place. People didn't really take it as seriously, so that's probably why it's messed up.
Heather and Stephen got married, and just 3 years later in September 2007, their son Carson was born. This didn't sit right with Joanna at all, since she wasn't too fond of Heather. Even when they first started dating, Joanna would often tell Stephen that she believed that Heather wasn't the best fit for him. So with that being said, you can only imagine how she felt when they got married. Something strange about Joanna is that despite her resentment towards Heather, she often helped her run her business at a flower shop. Since Stephen was busy working at his construction job, this meant that Heather would bring Carson to work with her. While Joanna was working with Heather, she often talked down and basically belittled her for not being a good mother, being a horrible store owner, and not properly taking care of her own son. It seemed that Joanna only wanted to work with Heather so that she could see Carson and make Heather's life more difficult by just being an annoyance. For the first couple years, their marriage was going steady, until around early 2007. Heather started to question Stephen's loyalty as a partner. When Stephen was questioned about his relationship,
Dude, but I gotta clean my damn screen. This is like, wow, I gotta clean it. So many damn dust up here. Oh man, dude, it was just distracting me the whole damn time. Ugh, man. Shit.
he told others that Heather was an ex-girlfriend who he had a kid with and that they weren't married. His reasoning for saying these things were strange at first, and it was suggested that he was forced to keep his marriage a secret due to his mother's commands. As mentioned, she despised Heather and she was heavily discouraged that her son married her. But this is when Heather started to believe that he was having an affair with her, and unfortunately for her, she learned that he was indeed cheating on her around Valentine's Day in 2008. On that day, Joanna had gave her a receipt for something that Stephen had purchased, in which he assumed that it was just a gift for Heather. But when given the receipt, Heather explained that Stephen hadn't bought her anything. After this, she confronted Stephen and called for a divorce. The custody arrangement was that Heather would be the main custodian, and Stephen would get Carson every other weekend. On top of this, Heather insisted that they would meet in public places when they handed Carson over to each other. This worked smoothly until one day on April 26, 2009. Heather went to a Target in Snellville, Georgia. As planned, Stephen arrived in his minivan, handed Carson to her, and quickly left. Out of nowhere, a man approached Heather said a couple words, shot her, and calmly left the parking lot. The man was described as having a skinny and slender build, a big mustache, and big bushy hair that almost resembled a wig. Keep in mind this was during the middle of the day, so a ton of locals witnessed this and were in complete shock as what they had just seen. The police quickly arrived on scene and located Heather's maroon Cadillac Escalade. Heather's body was on the ground near her car, and officers were able to identify her by finding her driver's license in the car as well. To get some evidence on who committed the act, the officers made their way inside the target to check out the cameras. The surveillance footage showed Steven in his car pulling up to meet with Heather, hanging cartoons
It's hard to tell like what's going on. It's so grainy and like a little blurry.
over to Heather and leaving. When Heather made her way back to her car, the man approached her, exchanged some words with her, and then shot her in the head. The footage also revealed that the man had entered the parking lot on foot and left in the same direction he entered. To them, it seemed strange as this man was so out in the open and clearly visible to everyone. Even though there was video evidence showing that Steven left the parking lot, the police still wanted to interview him if he had any connection with the death of his former wife. As explained by Steven, he said that he had gone straight home after the exchange and that he wasn't involved with her death. The officers also made their way to Steven's parents' house and interviewed them. In particular, they wanted to speak to Joanna since she had been working with Heather as mentioned before, and they believed she could provide some insight. Other locals were interviewed, and anyone who knew anything about Heather or the situation were encouraged to come forward at this point. Shortly after, a police sketch of the man was then created after numerous witnesses agreed to link up with a forensic expert to create a sketch of the perpetrator. Just a couple days after the shooting, the police received a phone call from a truck driver that had been staying at a hotel near the target. Daryl, the truck driver, explained that he witnessed the man everyone was talking about scoping the area out with binoculars a few days before the shooting, almost like he was planning on doing something. Whatever it was, there clearly wasn't any good intentions. But one of the biggest giveaways Daryl told the officers was about the truck the man was driving. He saw him driving an old white Ford F-150 pickup truck with an extended cab and a black trim around it. This seemed just like filler information. However, it became important after one of the officers remembered seeing a
Oh shit, it's getting crazy and crazy. But that mugshot, that sketches I meant, not fucking mugshot. It's very, very
similar pickup truck just a couple days prior when they visited Steven's parents' home. So to get confirmation on the vehicle, the officers drove Daryl to Joanna's home, and when he saw the truck, he confirmed that it was the one. As it turned out, the truck was registered to Joanna Hayes. Once they were able to get a search warrant for the truck, they found some new pieces of evidence while searching. They managed to find a receipt from Wendy's in Lutherville, Georgia, and a string of hair that was from a wig. Once again, Joanna was brought in for questioning about her activity. One questioned where she had been on that day of the shooting. She stated that she was staying the night at her parents' place in Lutherville, and that she bought something from Wendy's on her way there. The investigators really weren't too fond of her story, but what made things worse for her is how she was talking about Heather. I mean, we already know how much she hated Heather, and in all honesty, it just seemed that she didn't care about her death at all. Weird, right? Well, finally, with all of these discoveries, Steven was interviewed just once more, and this time,
don't tell me it was him.
Answer to who the man was who shot Heather was revealed. Steven was brought into the police station and shown the surveillance footage and police sketch. While watching the footage, Steven couldn't believe what he was seeing. He explained that the perpetrator walked exactly like his mother, and even the sketch looked like his mother if she was disguised as a man. It was at this moment that everyone knew that Joanna was the murderer and wore a disguise to hide her inhumane actions. The police asked Steven if he wanted to call his mom in order to get a confession out of her. While on the phone, he explained everything that he'd just seen. When questioned if she had any involvement, she denied, but deep down, everyone knew she was the one who did it. Shortly after, Joanna was interviewed again, and when the sketch and all the evidence started piling up against her, she became very defensive and barely elaborated on her side of the story. With that, Joanna's trial began in May 2011. Her plans of murder were exposed to everyone. She knew that Steve
It's crazy, that does kind of look like her with the wig.
and Heather were meeting up at the Target, and wearing a disguise that consisted of a wig and a mustache would hide her identity. Well, at least that's what she thought. That Joanna...
You can see it. It looks exactly like it. Like it just had a wig. Even if the sketch was like more better, you will see that it very much looked like this woman right here. Alright.
2011. Her plans of murder were exposed to everyone. She knew that Steven and Heather were meeting up at the Target, and wearing a disguise that consisted of a wig and a mustache would hide her identity. Well, at least that's what she thought. She truly believed that she can get away with murder, but this was not the case. More evidence surrounding Joanna's actions popped up during her trial, as one of her former friends, Paul Benzino, explained that Joanna told him that she planned on committing the perfect murder one day while they were both working at Heather's business. Adding on, he mentioned that her choice of weapon would be a revolver. It's been discussed that Joanna often carried a firearm on her, as explained by Steven's grandfather, but the weapon that was used against Heather was never revealed. Finally, on May 27, 2011, Joanna Hayes was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 30 years.
Yo, that's crazy, bro. That is crazy. Anyway, if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. What else? Turn on the bell notification to tell or know when I'm dropping another video. And that's pretty much it, chat. That's all I can say. I'm out. Peace.
I'll take your money.